this is Postgres is a new default. As Peter said, we transitioned our default from MySQL, and I'm going to tell you the story about how we did it. And this is me. So I work with data. I came to Engineered a little over a year ago, and my responsibility deals with, I get to worry about customer stack when it comes to data. What databases we support, how we install them, how we configure them, how we monitor them, what type of alerts we do, and what we should support or not support, or what are the problems that customers tell us. So a little bit about what we're going to talk about is like where we were a year ago, our relationship with Postgres, what were the challenges that we faced, and where do we see our future together. So Engineered lives in the cloud. That means that we have actually no hardware whatsoever. So everything we need to do has to be in an instance, either on the platforms that we actually are on. So we have, we were traditionally a Ruby on Rails shop, and we've recently relaunched Node, and we have PHP. And I am going to focus a little bit more on the Rails side of the house, and that part of our product shipped with MySQL from day one, and didn't even have any other database. So MySQL was the entire core of our business. We have one of our interesting things about a company is that we have a really amazing support organization, and this means that if you want to come with us, we will do things that will help you out a lot, but sometimes are not very supportable, but we will support you. If you come with a crazy idea, we will tell you that maybe it's a crazy idea, and we will be very vocal about it. But if at the end of the day you want to use your database to just store movies, we will advise you, but not get in your way if that's what you want to do. So that's what we do. So we have two products. We have more than two products, but I'm just going to talk about two. So one of our products is called Engineer Cloud, and that product lives on top of Amazon, it's on top of AWS. And our second product is called Engineered Manage, and it deals more with enterprise applications. You need an SLA. It sits on Terramark, and we have kind of two customer profiles. We have people that actually need this type of guarantees, and then they go to Terramark, or people that are starting with a small Rails application, and they grow up or they grow down, and they do that we see much more in cloud. And then it's just more of a GUI. You decide what you want in your environment, how you want to do it. Whereas in Manage, we do everything for you. So we have I think I counted this yesterday. We on cloud, we watch over 1 petabyte of customer data. And one of the things that we don't do is we're not multi-tenant in the sense of the cloud is all multi-tenant. But what we do is you come to us, you boot up an instance, and the instance is yours. We don't put any other customer's application on yours. You can do whatever you want with those instances. So in that way, that's what I mean by that we're not multi-tenant. And then now I'm going to take you back where things were a year or so ago. So a year or so ago, I came to Engineered, and we found out that we only had MySQL 5.0. So I don't know if there's a lot of MySQL guys here, but that is a really, really old version of the database. It's really old. The only type of replication it supports is statement-based. So it was time to update the stack. We had a few versions of 8.3. We had an alpha of 8.3 that was very poorly provisioned. We did it for ourselves. This is how bad dog fooding looks like. Whenever you have something that is not quite complete, and then you use it for yourself, and then customers find it, and then, hey, all of a sudden we have a few 8.3s out. But we didn't have support for slaves, no documentation. And if you're in the cloud and you can't do replication, it's very suicidal. So there was increasing interest in Postgres. Rails 3 had come out, and then they had some performance optimizations, and customers wanted us to make those available. And the optimizations that Rails 3 came with dealt with using Postgres and prepare statements. So we had to do it. And I really didn't want to have to work with MySQL, so I started pushing for stack expansion. And Tom and I took an architectural tour this week, and we found out this phrase that is called, this is dirt, do it right this time. So we wanted to expand the stack, and I wanted to do it right. So this is a tale of our relationship with Postgres. So every relationship has stages. So I'm going to use stages in relationships to actually frame this discussion or this conversation. And the first stage with us was infatuation. Like when you love somebody, and why did we love Postgres? Like, we were in land of MySQL with statement-based replication, and then Postgres 9.0 had come out. So we wanted to get like the advantages of having streaming and hot standby replication. Yes. Postgres has very native features and extensions that make it very versatile for our customers. Instead of having to have extra instances to do different things, they can use the database to like and get more value out of their instance. You have versatile data types. Every time I pick a Postgres book, I learn of a data type that I didn't even know that existed. So you have foreign data wrappers, so you can query the Twitter like with your database. Amazing. The Ruby community really likes doing things like that. So we're very, very like, how would you say, non-safe. So we have a lot of, continue. We have a lot of, in Postgres, you have a lot of indexes. They don't have the flexibility, and I think MySQL only has like 2 types, right? So anyway, they are like support for procedural languages, full text search, and another thing that was very important for us is that Postgres had been supported in managed, but managed is a more expensive product, and I really dislike the idea of having to make customers pay more for something that honestly there was no technical reason to not make it available. And whenever customers want to do something, there's like your documentation as a community is fantastic. If somebody wants to learn something new, it's very easy to get started. So I decided to go ahead and to make sure that we're honest and then do a very good job. If it's not on production, it's not really supported. And if it's not your default, it's not really going to be like the product that you look at. Like I wanted to make sure that we had it, I don't know what happened here. I wanted to make sure that we were in, no, it did not. Huh? 3-second delay. Okay, so we wanted to make it our default, and then we ended up doing it. So 3-second delay. Yes, it is plugged. Unplug it and plug it back in. Okay. I mean, this is not going to be a talk bashing MySQL. We all know MySQL, and we have customers that are supported, and then it was part of our stack, so we can't just go ahead and take like. Does it look now? Nope. Oh. What? Command F1. Nope. Nothing to kill your time. I don't know, like this is a time where like speakers dance or something. It's my first talk, so I don't really know what to do with this dead time. So, dead. Yeah, I can. Not very well. Okay, then that's fine. I don't really, like, I'll just carry on without. Yeah, it took very. So anyway, this is unfortunate because the other slides were very funny. So I even had like lolcats and everything. So I'm disappointed. Yeah, I speak in memes, so. All right, let's give it 2 seconds, and if not, we continue, because I only have 20 minutes. And I've never seen anybody on this room have this problem. Boom. All right, so, hey, all right. Let's move to the second stage. This is the stage where you start understanding your partner, and this is what I'm going to like talk about. It's like how we ramped up our knowledge. So we were traditionally a MySQL shop, and we needed to make sure that we rehabilitated people and introduce new concepts with people that are going to be in charge of the stack and also helping us roll new features. So what we did is like we hired Enterprise DB and did their DBA training for all of our DBAs and some of our engineers. And then since we're coming from so far behind, we looked at open source tools to help us gain velocity and bake things into the product faster. So at this point, we don't have anything that we have open source or any sort of like significant contribution other than putting it in front of more people. But a problem that was quite predominant with this migration was that everything in our company was geared towards MySQL, and that dealt with customer-facing documentation. So we got a technical writer. She helped us rewrite everything, and that is an advice. If you have any sort of documentation that gets presented in front of people, get a technical writer. They're awesome when they're good, yes. So let's get to the part that is the funniest. This is the stage of disturbances. This is the challenges that we faced when we were rolling this out. Our stack is made out of many components, and the components get released using a roadmap. This is standard, like any company has that. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to treat databases a little bit different. So I put this shiny little plan about making something in alpha, then moving it to beta, then do it GA, and I went into alpha with 9.0, and it was a huge mistake because it was the most popular feature that we've ever released, and customers started using it in production immediately. And when you say alpha, you say, okay, just like, test it in a staging environment. And then we realized that they didn't really care about my puny nomenclature. They just wanted production-ready things immediately. Like the moment that you make it available, they're going to use it in production. And for us, it was a little bit of a realization moment because now we deprecated the concept of alpha altogether. There's just no alpha, no labs. Like it's silly to assume that that is not the way people are going to use your product. So I got it wrong. So now we folded alpha beta into a single release. So it means that it takes us a little bit longer to get something out. But by the time that we take it out, we have run it through all of the areas of QA and everything in the organization that we could think of. One of the problems that was very big is that we released 9.0 out in an alpha. Then we released 9.1 into a beta. And then we changed the term after we did that. But all of our instances use EBS for persistence. And the smallest instances that we had at that point had 32-bit architectures. So all of the smalls and the mediums had 32-bit systems. So it means that all of our customers that are most cost-conscious are going to start in a very, very very small architecture. But then eventually, we would like our customers to grow, and we want to help them grow very easily. And I couldn't make Postgres the default at that moment because every customer that created an environment with us will have to face a dump and restore in order to have snapshots and a new environment recreated. So this was a little bit of this gave me a lot of apprehension to make it the default at that moment, so I had to wait a little bit. But the dump and restore was a problem. Another thing that we had, it was that our product is also an application. And our application, we use TDD, test-driven development. And all of our tests assume MySQL. So when you want to change the default database and everything in your code base says MySQL, you're in a little bit of trouble. So tests started failing. Tom over there helped fix them. So he's one of the reasons that we can do default. So we have to refactor a lot of things. So this is another stage in our relationship with Postgres. So we have these problems. We really wanted to make it right. And these are the things that we did to make sure that we were able to roll this out. How do we do it? Everybody in the company pitched in. So we had people from support, from engineering, people from product side. Everybody just chipped in with their patches, information. Our documentation team was very good. Our marketing department also helped us out. And this is what we do now with your instances. So I mentioned that we have two products. We have Engineer Cloud, and that is provisioned with, we use Chef and EBS for persistence. And in Manage, we have Puppet and network-attached storage. I don't know why we use Chef and Puppet and different things, but that decision was made before me. So the way that we configure things on cloud, I'm going to talk about cloud because Manage is kind of like cloud, but different. Different is in it's a similar concept. But we put all of your data on an EBS volume. We don't really rate the volume, and we send those snapshots to S3. The transaction log is in the same volume that your data. And I'm not going to, I don't think we're going to read EBS volumes anytime soon. But the reason that we don't do it is because if you rate your volume, you lose the capacity to have a snapshot that is consistent unless you turn your database, and I guess you don't have any writes. But we're not going to do that because once Amazon craps out and you're in the 3 in the morning trying to recover customer instances, it's really helpful to have a snapshot that you can recover from, and it speeds up the process of recovery. So for us, at this moment, it doesn't make any sense to RAID. The way that we do, if you're in the cloud, as I mentioned, you have to replicate. You have to. We turn archiving on the DB master, and DB master is our term for like your database master. But then we make the slaves be hot standbys. And when you boot a slave with us, the slave gets placed in a different availability zone than your database master. So if one availability zone falls, then you would have something that you can promote, and then hopefully, like, if a region, like, hopefully, it's unlikely that an entire region is going to crap out. Mostly what we've seen is that an availability zone, like, falls or, like, it has problems with DBS. So until today, we haven't seen a region go down. Hopefully, they never will. And also that we do is that customers tend to be very apprehensive about spending, like, a profile of customers don't really want to spend more than they absolutely need to. And when you're trying to make sure that they adopt a slave, the concept of, like, trying to explain them that they have to replicate is still something that takes a little bit more education in our part. What we did to make sure that we can encourage this is that we let them boot slaves that are smaller than the database master. So you can replicate, you can have an EBS volume that offers you some sort of durability, and then we snapshot as well, but it doesn't have to be as costly as your database master. Obviously, when you promote it, you have problems because you want to have things that are comparable, but if you wanted to use it as for durability, then you can have smaller slaves. For monitoring, we use Bucardo's check Postgres, and we use collectd and Nagios. So, and we check things that are like the normal standard, like, process health, replication lag, checkpoints, and more. So, like, we do the standard checks. Also, instances get like space and resource utilization that comes from, like, the instance side of the provisioning part of an architecture. Okay, I don't know how I'm doing in time. I'm okay? All right. So this is how we do backups. We have an internal tool that wraps around pgdump. So since we have databases with MySQL and Postgres, we have to have something that at least is a common way to cron. And it's like, hey, call this thing, and this thing calls pgdump, and then we send those dumps to S3, and we also send the snapshots of the volume to S3. If you have a slave, then we do backups on your slave by default. So backup. Oh, and another thing that we wanted to do is, like, since customers have dedicated instances, it really doesn't, like, we wanted to offer them the opportunity to have any extensions they wanted. So we allow customizations, and as you recall, Cloud has Chef for provisioning. So we have this cookbook that allows customers to install any database, any extension they want on any database on their server. So I have the lovely task of curating, adding, and testing that thing for every version of Postgres that we have. So far we have 9091, so it's still like fairly reasonable. And I haven't really gotten any new requests for extensions, but, like, I picked up a few during the conference that I think I'm just going to go and add them in. So I think they're kind of cool. So what happened? So we have the problem where we had 32-bit instances, and at that point, I couldn't make Postgres a default because a lot of our environments, there's a significant portion of environments that are in the smaller instance tier. And if I was to make Postgres a default, then I was going to kill our support organization with people that grew too fast or they filled their database and now they had to move to a bigger instance. And I decided to wait a little bit. And we got really lucky because Amazon rolled out 2 instance types that are 64-bit, and then finally we were able to have 64-bit small and mediums. So we consolidated our architecture, and we standardized every instance to be 64-bit. We still have some instances that are 32, but we can migrate those customers away. And since Postgres didn't used to be the default, then the number of customers that had it is a little bit more manageable. So now that everybody that comes and boots an environment will get a 64-bit instance with Postgres 9.1 running on it. All right. So that was the story a little bit of, like, why we wanted to do it, the steps that we took, and they're not all of them. I just, like, condensed them for this time, but we're now in a stage where we're very happy. Like, we're very happy. Our customers are very happy. They're very interested, and we really trust the database. But we don't really want to get complacent. So this is what we're going to do to make sure that we keep it, like, we keep the stack healthy. We need to roll out 9.2 support. As I said, we have QA cycles and release processes that we need to make sure that we do because customers don't want alphas. So once that is finished, then 9.2 will come out. And Amazon has rolled out about different instance types that help with the latency. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the cloud, but latency is a problem. And when you're talking about latency, you're not talking about latency of hard drives. You're just talking about network traffic. Like you need network throughput. So everything goes through the network. EBS volumes is what we use for persistence. So there's 3 new instance types that maybe are going to allow us to offer customers a little bit more throughput. One of you can actually go to Amazon and get an instance that has provisioned IOPS. Like you get to pay for how many IOPS you want. I say yes. And then there's another instance that deals with is EBS optimized. So the instance and the EBS drive like apparently are closer together. And then you have the instances that are back with SSDs. The instances that are back with SSDs, you can still attach EBS volumes, but obviously you don't want to use your EBS volume to store your data because you lose the speed that an SSD would give you. So for those instances, what we need to do is find a way to, we will lose the capacity to snapshot the volume. So I would imagine that you have to like do snapshotting at the kernel level, and we haven't really done that yet. Like our tool and our deployment systems assume that you're going to have an EBS volume attached. So we are likely going to test those instances out on things that are internally first, and then we already have them. I was going to ask, so the SSD back is different in terms of what you can do with them from the. Not really. Like, okay. No, like what you have is like in instances in Amazon, you have an instance that comes to you, and you can attach EBS volumes. All of the instances that come to you have ephemeral storage, which is the storage that comes within the instance. But the instance can go away at any moment. So if you put your data on the ephemeral drive, it just goes away. This one, instead of having ephemeral drives, you have an SSD. So technically, it's a little bit more resilient than an EBS drive, no, than EBS, yeah, than ephemeral. But the instance can still go away. So you have to have some sort of redundancy because like you could lose that data. What you get, though, is that you get an instance that performs very fast. And if you need to do a lot of like if you need your database to do a lot of operations, it gets expensive fast. So I think the Postgres is a little bit more optimized, but we also have a few Mongos, and whenever, well, you get with Mongo you get you get limited by writes very quickly, but the instances need to be very large for you to even do anything very useful. So we're working on rolling out these 3 types of instances and see if maybe that helps. Oh, I remember provision IOPS. It's like a little like gauge that you say how much IOPS are you willing to pay. And if you say, okay, I'm comfortable with this amount, then you just like put the slider to that level, and then you just pay a little bit more. But you're guaranteed that, I don't know, by some sort of Amazon magic, that you're going to have that type of throughput. All right, so. Future directions that we want to make sure that we do. Upgrades are still a bit of a pain. I would like for versions to be like more straightforward to do that. So we're looking at we're investigating what we can do to make sure that if you want to go from like well, we have several databases, but like right now we have a few 8.3s. Those ones I know we're going to have to dump and restore. But if you no. I think you can, but if you're in 9.1 and then like I haven't really tested it yet. But since the problem is that our okay, so I will test that out. But I think I would like for customers like process of upgrading the database to be a little bit more trivial. Like right now they have to like select the stack, then you have to plan for downtime and everything. So like I think that if I had my wish, then that would be something that I would like our customers to be able to do faster. I said that I have extensions and people I have cookbooks for extensions and people can install whatever they want. I really dislike having to have an extra step to enable something in your database, so I really want to kill those cookbooks and then have a way that is more intuitive for customers just to say, hey, I want PG Crypto, Postgres, and something else, and just have the database do it. There's no reason for them to actually have to think about it other than just click it. So I don't really like that. And another thing that is very important for us, up to this moment, our product doesn't really have a very good answer to the question of HA and DR. And I mean, it's a difficult answer to have, but right now what we do is like we have a professional services organization, and then we do customized solutions for for different environments, we either offer them HA, DR, and then what I would like to do is to make sure that the things that we know that we learn can be baked into the product, and that's going to be a little difficult. But the director of professional services has a mission to make sure that we have a button that says replicate your environment, so at least I have a buddy that we can go and fight this together. But I think HA and DR is something that we need to make sure that we help customers with. Some issue that we're still dealing with, education is still a problem. We see a low adoption of slaves, and a year ago I counted them because I was curious, and we had 146, and now we have 165, and the number of environments keeps rising, but people are not putting up slaves. So maybe I think what I need to make sure that I do is just like, hey, new blog post about why slaves are awesome, and make sure that we're a little bit more educational towards our customers and let them know that it's a necessity. And they learn the bad way whenever Amazon has one of those days. And I think it's a very unpleasant way to learn that you should replicate your data. So I hope that we can just do something that will teach them that they should really put something up. I don't know how I'm doing on time, but that was, I think, what we do is, like, if you have a use case that matches us, then just give us a try. We have trials, and you can just put up a Postgres instance and do whatever you want with it. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Yes. Mm-hmm. The question was, is anybody left engineer because we moved to Postgres? The answer is no. Actually, we have people that are very reasonable. One of our DBAs used to be a Postgres DBA, so that was a good thing to have. Our developers really like it. So nobody has left the company over Postgres. What it is interesting, I think, is like we need to be very careful about how we phrase this discussion, because customers are using MySQL that we provisioned. I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we help them either migrate to Postgres or support them for as long as is possible. We have MySQL 5.0, 5.1, and 5.5, and we use the performant distribution, but I don't have in the roadmap anything MySQL related other than just making sure that the versions that we have in the stack are still okay. But I think that our challenge is making sure that our story becomes a little bit more sensible to our customers. Nobody in the engineering organization will leave over MySQL. We support more than just MySQL and Postgres. So it's kind of like if you want to go and come to us and be a DBA, then you have to make sure that you're used to, or you expect the fact that you're going to have to deal with more than one database. So, yes. Okay, do you want me to show that slide? Okay, so this is a little bit of like what our database stack looks like. I started making numbers. So we made Postgres the default on August 14th. We could have made it the default a little bit sooner, but I was a little apprehensive. I wanted to make sure that I saw how the ticket flow came, and if there was nothing really that was concerning, then we were going to make it a default. So nothing really happened over like many months, so I'm like, okay, let's make it a default. So the way that our stack looks like roughly is like we have around 24 Postgres 8.3s, and they're mostly internal. So that means that it's up on me to like convert them, but it's mostly internal, and then there are other things that I need to be doing. So it's really hard to make us honest, but I want to chop that off. And I think this is going to be the first time that we end of life something. We actually keep adding things to the stack, and then it's very nice because you have new stuff, but I think we need to kill the old and work with our customers to migrate them or migrate ourselves. Postgres 9.0 in March had around 158 instances, and now it has 136. And since we made the default in Postgres, in March we had like only 206 instances, and now we have 774. And I didn't count today, but every new environment that gets added has a Postgres database, unless customers override it. But we've seen the number like skyrocket now. Well, skyrocket. It's still like nothing compared. MySQL is the outlier. We have around 9,000 environments on MySQL 5.0. So end of life in that one is going to be a real pain. So, and I don't really think I'm going to be able to pull that off until like middle of next year. So I need to start working with our customers now to say, hey, you really need to migrate, we're really meaning, like we really mean it, we're gonna end of life this, we really, really, really mean it, and then 6 months down the road, remind them again, and then eventually kill it. But I think until we take care of this, like 9,000, the way I see it is like, we have a technical debt of 9,574 MySQL instances. So until we fix that, it's like I can't say, hey, out. So yes. Not yet. So we had some of, when we made Postgres a default, some of our largest customers started asking. So we're trying to find like ways to solve this question. I saw Dimitri's talk, and basically what I got from it is that it's going to be a pain in the ass, and it's like very case specific. So yeah. So I don't expect it to be pleasant. So we'll see how that goes. But no, I don't really have a very good answer at the moment, and I think it's just I think it's going to be an interesting thing for us because it's also like forcing us to describe or like to define how much is enough. Like how much are we going to do? Are we going to code their application for them? Like we need to answer this ourselves before we actually can go and start saying, hey.
I very much apologize for interrupting, but we're past our time. Thank you very much, Ines.
So that was it. So